if you cannot see, climb up onto gates and that, you'll see it fairly well. That's the beast in the cross, and then it's going to squeeze operation and that's how it's done. Stop the beast kicking very quickly. It's never been used to being grabbed before. It settles down awful quickly, as you can see.
So, as you would think, it was maybe a bit probably not the fact more pressure, it's only 900 psi the pressure in hydraulics. I initially thought swing your legs when it went down, but not the fact so the legs can fit.
So as you can see, the beast is well restrained and they can do all the treatments on it very, very quickly. And they get weighed as well. 5'4", 2 kilos.
So it's put on 20 kilos already, that's good for it, isn't it? Or it's the same weight? They're usually 20 kilos like that.
So that's the thing that works. So what I never introduced you initially to were two hosts today, which is Thompson Wilson standing beside me, and Michael needs to come up here as well. Just a little bit of background on the farm. Michael, are you doing this?
I'll do it. Right, we started this about 5 years ago. We first thought, right, we need something better for cattle because running about the countryside, shifting cattle about and keeping them, and you know what like, it takes an awful time. It was a hell of a work running around the countryside feeding cattle. So we decided to construct this new shed here. We sold one of the old farms, the steading off our houses, and put the money towards building the original shed, which is a direct mirror image to the one behind us, with the courts and stuff. Just it's a grain store in the centre. So we did that 2 years ago. We applied for a SRDP grant for this handling bit here, but didn't get it. But we did it anyway. We just decided this is what we was wanting to do, so we did that last year, completed last year. So we hold about 550 cattle in this shed over there, in the 5 pens, sorry. We've got access at the back where there's cars parked is where we can chase the cattle out, so we can access from this side. With the loader, so that the bedding takes place within the pen, just with the loader and shaking out bales, with no cattle involved, which is a great boost, which helps a lot.
Buying, where you buy them from,
cattle
buying, selling weight.
Okay, the cattle are all bought at Orkney, based in Dingwall. Father does that job, and then they come home here. We run them through. We take all the smaller sort of ones, they go to Father's. He's got slats there, so they're finding cheap keep there and slats, anything below 500 kilos for a few months. They're fed in a silage ration, based ration there. The bigger ones are left here in they'll go to their own pen, and we'll just keep filling up a pen until there's about 88 perhaps. It depends on how many cattle we've got. Maybe 90, we can hold 90 up in a pen, and they'll go in a starter ration, which is 40% sugar beet, 40% barley, and some pot ale and some dark grains for about a fortnight to get them used to the barley. We also get mindles with yeast in them, harbour mindles with yeast, for about a fortnight, and then they'll go on to the full diet, which is 70% barley, 10% sugar beet, 10% dark grains, 10% molasses, so a pot ale, and the mindles. They all get fed straw ad lib. When they're first on the starter diet, we tend to feed them a bale of silage as well, because it's something that's coming from a silage diet, not to upset their stomachs too much. The fact when they're here for perhaps maybe a month or so before we'll go through them, and we'll go through them, all the cattle, once a month, to make sure we're not going over the weight. because we didn't want to feed them all this expensive barley and then get penalised at the end for putting them away too big. So we'll go through all the cattle once a month, and we can shed them here. We've got hydraulic split for two. That one's goes straight on and shed that way, or we can put some to the side there, to the loading bank. And we'll split them up so that if there's any big fat ones ready to go, we'll take them out. Anything above 700 kilos will go to, say, the middle pen, and under that will be fired away to some of the other pens for another month before we look at them again. The ones in the middle pen over 700 kilos we'll look at perhaps once a week. We'll go through them, and we'll maybe draft a 30-35 fat cattle out to them once a week, and then we're back to the monthly again. So after 4 weeks go through them all again, and it seems to work like a factory, really, you could say. You know, we're just getting quite efficient at it. Breed types and things. I'll speak with the gates in that first. I'll speak with the shed a wee bit more. Sharness Engineering did all the steel, the shed. I put the lights up myself, but the spark to the imported bit. The shed. The Ritchies made all the gates and the cattle handling gates and things. Crush's Pearson, which is Penty. We're reselling it. I think that's about it. Did most of the work, all the concrete work ourselves. Trying to make it as rough as possible. It's great when it's clean. It's great when it's wet. The problem is in between, when the dirt and muck gets in it and it gets dry. You know, it kind of packs it and gets a wee bit sloppy. But I don't know, we've tried making it really, really rough, but it just fills up, and once it fills up, it still gets sloppy. So the only way around about that is to put down some sand in the important bits now and again, just to make sure they don't slip. Touch wood, no problem so far. So go away at that.
At this minute, I'll just bring in Gordon Hossack, who's a buyer for wood heads, just to say a little bit about the quality of cattle coming off this farm and what he thinks of North East cattle in general.
Well, as a company, we're looking for probably the better end of the cattle, and the stock that comes off of this particular farm here from Thompson and Michael, we just took off a run of stock. They've marketed 205 cattle with us as a company since the 1st of January to last Friday. Out of that, there's 44% U grades and 54% R's, 1E and 2O's. Now, that's above average for the stock that we are coming in that kind of numbers off any one farm. So this farm here is certainly supplying above average stock to ourselves, and it's the kind of stock that we're looking for. I mean, they have 31 3s for fat, 138 4Ls and 34 4Hs.
Have you found 4Hs dropping with the higher price of barley in general? People marketing them a bit earlier.
Our average weight is back about 12 kilos just now on the year, and the 4H bracket is certainly less. And that would cut down just to the feed costs and people pushing away cattle this last back end a bit quicker.
And do you prefer the 4Ls to the 4Hs, or can you handle the 4Hs fine?
4H doesn't seem to cause us a problem as a company. But we would prefer a higher percentage of 4Ls, but we don't penalise 4Hs as such.
When we're going through the cattle and we're selecting them for wood heads, well, tomorrow we'll do it, so we'll just go through all that cattle there in that middle pen, which is about 140 maybe in that middle pen. We'll just run them all through. It'll probably take us about 3 hours to go through all them, but it seems the only way to try and avoid this penalties of getting too heavy. What we'll do, we'll weigh every piece, and we'll put them away at probably, well, it all depends. We were speaking earlier about the grades of them. A big difference, about 10% killing out percentage on one grading sheet we had, from an E2, which was 62%, to just a plain R grade, which was 52%, which makes it quite hard to get the weight spot on, because I mean, a 720 kilo beast at 62% is about the weight, whereas a 722 one at 52% is not near enough weight. So we're trying to grade them as we go through and put them away at perhaps maybe even 800 kilos if it's a big-bellied, poorer quality beast, you could say. So we're trying to aim for 440 kilos in new grades, but it's not that easy.
Now your chance. Any questions? Burning questions?
Do you guys handle the stuff when you're putting away fat?
Yes. There is. Yes. When we go through them all, if there's a fat one comes in, it'll be drafted into the ones either to go away or to go away in the next month. But as Gordon said, we've never really had much problem with fives now. Really not a problem. But if it is fat, we will put it away. We'll handle them all. It's very easy to handle them when you're going through them.
Irrespective of its weight.
What's that, sorry?
Irrespective
of the weight, yes. Because if it's some, well, it's like people, isn't it? You get short folk, it's heavy. You get it.
There's so many short cuddles, little cuddles there used to be. Again, there are much bigger. And they are getting a bit like sheep again. But sheep, they're like, if they're over a certain weight, you just put them away. And the cuddles just nearly go in the same way a little bit. Not quite so much use as much bigger.
Somebody in the previous group asked about poor doers. We 1,600 cattle being fed a year. There's going to be the odd poor doers, and you've got a policy for your poor doers.
Well, we tend to look what we're doing because everything's management tagged, and we'll know how long it's been here. I mean, it's a wee bit hard because we graze cattle as well in the summertime, so they're here a lot longer because they're not getting barley in the grass until later on, and their life weight gains not near so much. So we'll tend to look back. If there's a cattle come here and it's been here for about 6-7 months, we'll look at this number. I've got a list of them, the weight when they come home. And if it was a light sort of beast, we'll maybe leave it. But if it was about 550, 500 kilos when it's come home and it should be going away, we'll get rid of it. You know, we want to keep pushing barley into something. It's just keeping it living because there's not much point to that. And we tend to have, I would say, we have one a week. We're putting away that's near the optimum weight fat.
You get up to 440 kilos of these big lives as well.
I think Woodheads you get 440, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, up to 440. Yeah, but that's what Woodheads is.
Up to 450 you can live with, but if there are
That's my bit, Thompson.
Well, you would be fatter than you are.
In fact, if Gordon took a fillet steak off of the beast, it was over 450, we would be fine pleased because at least we'd be under the weight then.
But don't assume that 440 is accepted in every abattoir.
No. That's just
our weight range runs from 270 to 440. That's our weight range.
And do you think that there's a things that cattle pushing it to 440 they're pushing too far and that they become less efficient compared as it does on the side?
probably.
There must be a balance in there.
Yes, hence the reason why we're watching them and their management tags, and we're keeping an eye on them, you know, because there's, I can see it. Looks through them every day, and you get to know the ones that's been here longer. Their management tags, you're keeping an eye on them. You look back to see what the buying weight was, just to give you some reference to the thing. If they're fat, they go. If they're not doing well, get rid of them.
What's your average age for your cattle?
He'll tell you that. Go ahead. It's in your sheet.
It's in the sheet.
Average age for the beasts leaving the farm.
It's on some of the sheets.
It's in the sheet I gave you. I think it's about 21.8. 23 and a half. 23 and a half.
But you see, the 23 and a half, we could argue, is too late. But they haven't got a lot of control on that because they bought into stores of all different ages and they're efficiently finishing them over probably a 90 or 100-day period on average. So that part of the sector is efficient, but there is some sectors of the production chain that are inefficient that need to be sorted out.
I mean, some of them are cattle are coming here at 26, 27, 28 months, maybe even 29 months old, you know.
Remember one of our group we did, Donald's had their guys for saying a day and dates on it. And what they forget is that a lot of cattle we're buying from the ordinary. And they're rating conditions, which is maybe not as suitable as some of the farmlands. The guys are rating cattle. They end up living in poor forage and they just can't be older. And that's just, again. Well, I'm not sure about that. I would rather have young and older. I can't some folks say that, but if you buy a beast that's a year old, it's 500 kilos. If you look at the food, it's negative longer than it goes the rest of the way. But there's horses for courses, and we don't have margin takers. You buy them and hope to get a margin. They don't make it.
It's not still so like. No.
Pretty much so, but no, completely. Maybe 20 heifers, Michael? 40, not well. They're just not the stores, you never see them.
in the cattle you buy from Orkney compared with your fenced cattle and your dingle cattle?
Cattle for Orkney have bigger margins, but then if you put extra freight on them, there's very little difference. Folks seem to have work doing, it costs 15 or 16 pound more, and it just seems to be able to come to the same thing.
I was hoping you would say that the fenced cattle did best.
There's really not much difference. I would say if only the Orkney's no bigger, because they're coming to a bigger climate, but it's marginal.
We could say, in the way that first beast went through, the Sainston beast was the same weight today as it was last Friday in Sainston, whereas our beast coming to Orkney probably has lost a bit of weight by the time it gets here.
Probably. But that's not always the case, because it depends how they've been fed before. You know, some folk in Orkney they're not very good at looking after our beasts. I mean, some folk down here are not very good at looking after our beasts. You tend to find they do health well, you know. But some folk it's very good at looking after a beast before you get them. That's the ones that's, you know, we're just trying to...
But if you put them on a cereal diet, then it's not that first beast to be pushed over. But if you put it in the grass, obviously,
You're losing.
Is there any last minute questions at all? Or?
Final questions, and then move to the final station, and then it'll be dinner time.